Coach, obviously not the result you would have wanted tonight. The Tasmania JackJumpers, they came out, they just looked like they wanted it a bit more tonight. How did you feel about your team's performance?
Yeah, I don't know about all that, to be honest with you. I felt like, we won 3 quarters. We didn't have a free throw in the first half. We had 13 in the third, and then we had like 2 in the fourth, and we ended up with 15 free throws. So, we had a 5-minute stretch of the second quarter that we were outscored 15-2. I give them a ton of credit. They're well coached. They're a good physical team. They're a team that you can play good against and you can lose because they have a style. The game and the tempo was probably played at their pace and their rhythm a little more than we would like, but we won quarters. We just had a little bit of a flame out right there where we couldn't, generate some offense when Flynn and Isaac Humphries were both in foul trouble in that little stretch. But they're a big physical team, and we didn't shoot a free throw the first half. Can figure that out on your own. We played a little bit more downhill, probably got a few more stops in the third, and then all of a sudden in the fourth we can't get to the line. I give our guys a ton of credit. We won the quarter, but we had a layup to cut it to 2. We couldn't get the layup to go, so it was 4. A little too late, to be honest with you. But we won the rebounding game, which is huge against those guys. I thought Flynn Cameron was outstanding. He continues to grow. His toughness and just his kind of wanting to engage that game and that style stood out for us. And, it's a hard one to lose at home, but you give them a ton of credit.
You made a point, I think it was just last week, around, you finished with DJ. He didn't play a lot of minutes. Is he carrying an injury there?
No injury. I mean, his minutes have been right around, somewhere around 20, give or take. Tonight there was just some more matchup deals. We were trying to, when you're down, you got to get some stops and you got to get some rebounds. And, they pushed that lead out to 16 in the third. And, it's like, okay, well, we're going to have to, cut this thing down to even have a chance to get back in it. And we were trying, so it was just more about matchups in the game, trying to figure out, between Isaac and Nick and maybe Z, it's who's the 5? Is there somebody else that can make a shot? How do we get the stop? How do we help on the boards? Because, they just do things that control the pace, and you got to try to wrestle the pace away from them. Try.
Obviously Nick Marshall was pretty physical tonight with Cotton. Do you want to comment on that physicality as well? Do you think it was a little bit more?
Well, I mean, I just think that, we play a style of basketball that's attacking too. And I just think it's really interesting that there's no free throw attempts in the first half. None. And Bryce gets 3 for the game. And so if Nick Marshall is, as your question, playing a physical style of basketball, then probably, there's probably more there, but you give them credit for trying to impose their will and how they played. I would just say for me, and I think a lot of the coaches, what we probably are looking for in the league, and I see people get behavior warnings and we get tees, and, it's just, we're looking for a consistent whistle so the game looks consistent and that we have an idea how it's being officiated. And I thought Michael Aylen was great with his communication with me tonight. I want to say that. But you're trying to figure out, how we can also get those calls and try to, have positive possessions. I think that's probably the gist of it.
Last night you saw a game in this league which was much higher pace, and that was style obviously as well, but the whistle was, would be fully fair to say, a lot more frequent in that game as well, which affected the pace of the game, and obviously tonight that's quite different. Would that be fair in kind of saying that game to game could look a bit different this league?
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I didn't watch last night's game, so I don't really know. I mean, I saw the score, so I can't really comment on that. I just think that, for me, everybody's trying. I know everybody wants a really good product, and, I just think that it's been hard for me to gauge from game to game, what is going to get us to the line and how it's going to be worked, and everybody on the same page as in my team, and trying to coach them and trying to help them get the advantage in a really tough physical league. I mean, I think that's the bottom line in this league, is everybody plays a certain style, and you're just looking for consistency. That's it. But that's not an excuse for our team of how this game went, because we did do a lot of really, really good things. We won the first quarter 16-13. Did it feel like a grind? Sure it did. But we did win the quarter. And I thought the first 5 minutes of the second quarter were good. And then, when Isaac Humphries and Flynn got into a little foul trouble, we lost the momentum. So we were still functioning. You just want to, finish plays and those things. And the lead does balloon to 16 in the third, and I give my guys a lot of credit for staying in there and fighting. And you try to create an advantage, and you try to create an edge. And winning in this hardest league, we've done a bunch of it, and we've been really fortunate. And now we'll take a few days here, and then we'll get our feet back under us, and look forward to the Hoops Fest and what's going on out there in Perth.
And just on that, as a general comment, just to give insight to people out there, fans and people just interested in how the league functions, you got a big break before you go to Perth. What does your training schedule look like this week? Do you get a couple of hard sessions in, or is it a bit of a break? Yeah,
well, I think that last weekend was a big weekend for us. I mean, I thought that the Sydney game was a hard-fought physical game, and then, Brisbane was a battle, man. They brought it, and that was a quick turnaround for us. And, leading into this game, we'll have a little bit of a exhale for a second and let these guys rest and recover, and then, get the training on Monday and, build up for the week. We're fortunate that we don't play until Sunday. It's an early game in Perth time, but, it's a really good matchup, one that we're looking forward to. Just, another, all these tests, there's this game tonight was 133rd of our season, right? Just one game. We're trying to focus on that kind of deal. And, we still want to be the best version of ourselves at the end. I think that, we're marching in the right direction. We've had a lot of really good things happen this year. We'll focus on our next opponent at the start of the week.
Yeah, Mike, just a couple quickly. I won't go back onto the foul discussion, but I think that, it's pretty obvious that on a different night you might have got to the foul line, a little bit more when they're playing that physical defence. But at the same time, is that the best defence you've seen played against you this season? Maybe up there with that first Sydney game?
I got to be honest with you. I'm not really sure. I give Scott and their group a lot of credit. They have a style, and they grind on you, right? And when they're able to set their defense, it kind of does wear on you, where that's what they want. They want friction all over the court. They want body-on-body contact. They want to slap and hit you, and they're going to push it to the limit on fouls. And then the next thing you know is Magnay's laying on the ground. He's 6'10" and 240 pounds, and he's laying on the ground. So I don't really understand all that. And I give my guys a ton of credit. I wouldn't say that, we could wrestle the momentum of the game away from them, and they give them credit for being able to hold that. Even winning quarters and winning 3 of the 4 didn't feel our usual clean and easy, and, that we got clean looks and things. And, you give them all the credit in the world. for that, and you've got to find your advantage, and you got to find your ways to get those advantages. And they got their advantage easier than we got to ours tonight.
And just lastly, you talk about difference in styles. It's always going to be a completely unrecognisable game from tonight to next Sunday when you're playing against the Phoenix, just with the way that they play and how many more possessions there'll be naturally in that game with the pace it's at. Do you feel you're better suited to one way or the other, or do you feel you've got a pretty adaptable team that can play either way? Yeah,
I think all year we've played either way, right? It's one thing that I actually really love about this league. My NBA life, this time, guys all play very similar in the NBA now. It's all conceptual basketball, a lot more concepts and sets and advantages. And, there was a time when I started in the 90s and you knew that, Jerry Sloan in Utah was going to play one way, and, San Antonio was going to play one way, and New York was going to play one way, and Miami is going to play a different way. And, so in this league, obviously a lot less teams, but teams have styles, and you have to adjust and prepare for them and prepare for the different styles. It's a really, really unique challenge, I think, through the year, that we've handled most of those. We are 2-1 versus Tasmania. Tonight they kind of wrestled the momentum from us in that game. So you give them credit, right? And it's really hard to, get them sort of sped up. And we did that at Tasmania. The last time we were there, we were up 28, and then they started to press us, and they cut that down. So, it's just game to game. I love the adjustment. I love the game planning. It's part of the head coaching part that I really, really enjoy. I just didn't enjoy tonight.
No, I can understand. Thanks, Mike.
All right.
Coach, it certainly stings right now, but I guess are there lessons to be learned in the way that they came at you that could well serve you in a bigger picture sense?
Absolutely, 100%. I think that, what have we won? Maybe 12 of our last 13. So, I'm up there in front of the group, sort of like, hey, you got to stay sharp. You got to stay on the edge. And, those type of runs in this league we don't take for granted. Like I just said, like it's a special group to figure out how to win and compete and play. And we're almost there. It just got kick-started a little bit late. But, our group has been really, really good, and hopefully this will help me get their attention, I guess.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay. Thanks, guys.